My mentor planned to sacrifice me to save a reputation. The paper trail I found gave me a way out. I still remember the first day I walked into Dr. Adrian Hale's lab. His name carried weight across campus. Grants followed him. Reporters quoted him. Students competed just to stand near him. He had built a reputation that felt untouchable, and he chose me. When he told me I had potential, I felt seen in a way I never had before. I came from a small town where research labs existed only in textbooks. Now I was working beside a man whose studies shaped national policy. "You'll go far," he said during my first week. "Stay close. Learn how this world works." I believed him. I stayed late every night. I ran data sets twice. I checked numbers until my eyes blurred. When he asked for revisions, I made them without hesitation. He called me his strongest junior analyst. I thought being chosen meant being protected. I didn't understand yet that in his world, being chosen meant being useful. The lab never truly slept. Machines hummed even past midnight. Screens glowed against the dark windows. I often stayed long after everyone else left, cleaning datasets and running statistical models. Dr. Hale valued precision above all else. "Reputation is everything," he often said. "One careless mistake can undo years of work." Our main project was a long-term environmental impact study. The findings were strong enough to secure millions in renewed funding, but the data was complex. A small shift could change a major conclusion. One evening, I noticed he adjusted several data points before sending a draft to reviewers. The changes were subtle, almost invisible, just smoothing anomalies, he said calmly when I asked. I told myself he had more experience. If he made changes, they had to be necessary. Still, I began saving earlier file versions on my personal drive, not because I distrusted him, because I believed in being thorough. I didn't realize those backups would one day save me. Pressure grew once news spread about our upcoming publication. A national journal showed interest. A media outlet requested comment. Funding committees scheduled review meetings. Dr. Hale handled attention with calm control. But I noticed small differences. He checked his email constantly. He locked his office door during phone calls. He reminded me daily to recheck every figure. "Success invites scrutiny," he said one afternoon. "People look for cracks." 2 days later, the journal editor emailed. A peer reviewer had flagged inconsistencies between two data sections. The numbers didn't align. It wasn't catastrophic, but it was enough to raise questions. Dr. Hale called me into his office immediately. He closed the door. His expression was steady, too steady. "We'll address this carefully," he said. Something inside me shifted. He handed me the reviewer's comments. The inconsistencies were in a section I had finalized weeks earlier. "These were aligned in my last version," I said carefully. "Mistakes happen," he replied. "You were managing multiple models." The blame felt settled before the conversation even began. "I'd like to check the version history," I said. "Of course," he answered smoothly. "But first, we need a formal response." That afternoon, he drafted a statement. It explained that a junior analyst had made a computational oversight. My name sat beneath the word responsibility. "I need you to sign this," he said. "It shows accountability. It protects the lab. Protects the lab, not protects me." The room felt smaller than before. For the first time since joining his team, I felt alone in it. I took the paper home unsigned. That night, I logged into the university server. I opened the dataset in question and reviewed the version history. My last saved file showed clean alignment. 3 days later, edits appeared under his account. A. Hale. The adjustments were small but precise. They shifted a key percentage just enough to change interpretation. I searched my email for any message explaining the changes. There was none. Instead, I found something else. An internal email from him to the department chair, dated 1 week before the reviewer raised concerns. "If questions arise," he had written, "we will position it as junior miscalculation." Junior miscalculation. He hadn't been reacting to a mistake. He had been preparing a narrative. I stared at the screen for a long time. The problem wasn't the data. It was the plan. I didn't confront him the next morning. That was what he expected. Instead, I walked into the lab as if nothing had changed. I greeted him. I reviewed charts. I asked about the next draft submission. He watched me closely. "You had time to review the statement?" he asked. "Yes," I said evenly. "I just want to double-check everything before signing." He smiled. "Good. Accountability matters." The word felt sharper now. That afternoon, I requested access to archived backups to ensure consistency. He approved without hesitation. Why wouldn't he? He believed I was cooperating. While he attended meetings, I downloaded full revision logs from the server. Every file recorded timestamps, user IDs, and changes made. The pattern was clear. Each edit that caused inconsistency carried his login. Not mine. I saved the logs to an encrypted drive. Then I emailed copies to my personal account. Not out of panic, out of preparation. If he had already planned to position me as the mistake, I needed proof that the mistake wasn't mine. For the rest of the week, I stayed quiet. Dr. Hale spoke to me in the same calm tone he always used. If anything, he sounded kinder. "I'll guide you through this," he said one afternoon. "Early setbacks build strong careers." I nodded, pretending to believe him. Meanwhile, I reviewed deeper system logs. The university server tracked login locations and IP addresses. Every late-night edit came from his office computer. Not from mine. Not remotely. I also compared the grant proposal draft from 2 months earlier. The projected outcomes had been slightly lower in my original version. After his edits, the numbers were stronger, more impressive, more likely to secure funding. I leaned back slowly. This wasn't random correction. It was enhancement. If the data looked better, the lab's reputation grew. If the flaw surfaced, someone else carried the cost. And that someone was already listed on a statement waiting for my signature. I decided to look into the past. The lab website listed former research fellows, but one name was missing from current archives. A doctoral student who had once co-authored 2 major studies. I searched conference programs from 3 years earlier. She had been listed as lead analyst. Then she disappeared. I located an old internal email chain referencing data clarification issues and a transition of responsibilities. Her departure had been quiet. Too quiet. Later publications from that year included minor corrections attributed to analytical oversight. No mention of supervisory edits. The pattern became clear. When numbers shifted, someone below him absorbed the impact. I wasn't uniquely trusted. I was strategically placed. For years, I had believed he saw potential in me. Now I understood. He saw insulation, and insulation is meant to take the heat. The board review was scheduled for Thursday. On Monday, he sent a reminder. "Please return signed statement before meeting." I replied, "Final review in progress." That afternoon, he stopped by my desk. "Time is sensitive," he said quietly. "Delays can appear resistant." "I want to ensure accuracy," I answered. He studied me. "Loyalty matters too," he said. There it was. The line between mentorship and control. That evening, I reviewed the university's research integrity policy. Supervisors were accountable for final submissions. The language was clear. No gray areas. I highlighted the section and saved a copy. Then, I contacted the Independent Ethics Office anonymously. I described the situation as a hypothetical. The response came the next morning. If accurate, this would qualify as research misconduct, not oversight, not miscommunication. Misconduct. That word changed everything. If I signed the statement, the issue would close quietly. My record would carry blame. His reputation would remain intact. And the next junior analyst would sit in the same chair, facing the same paper. I opened a new folder on my laptop. Inside it, I placed full revision logs, screenshots of email chains, grant draft comparisons Ds. Policy guidelines. The internal message about junior miscalculation. Then I wrote my own timeline. Dates, times, exact wording from conversations. February 28. Email about positioning blame. March 3. My final dataset submission. March 6. Edits made under his account. March 12. Reviewer concern. Side by side, the pattern was undeniable. I printed 2 copies. One for backup. One for the board. Thursday was approaching, and for the first time since this began, I felt something steady. Not fear, preparation. On Tuesday morning, Dr. Hale approached my desk again. "The board review is in 2 days," he said. "I need that signed statement." "I'm still reviewing the logs," I replied calmly. His jaw tightened slightly. "This is about protecting the lab." "I agree," I said. "Accuracy protects the lab, too." For a moment, neither of us spoke. "Be careful not to mistake guidance for pressure," he said softly. I met his eyes. "I won't." That afternoon, I printed the full server history. Every edit, every deletion, every timestamp. His username appeared beside the key changes. I highlighted them in yellow. Then I added the internal email about positioning blame. No dramatic labels, just documentation. When I placed the papers into a plain folder, my hands were steady. If this meeting turned into a defense, I was ready. As I left the building that evening, his office light was still on. He was preparing too. But I knew something he didn't. I wasn't walking into that room alone. I was walking in with evidence. Wednesday passed in silence. Dr. Hale stayed behind his closed office door most of the day. When we crossed paths, he spoke as if nothing unusual was happening. "Sleep well tonight," he said in passing. "Tomorrow will be long." "I will," I answered. That afternoon, I received a message from the ethics office confirming they had logged my inquiry. They asked me to meet after the board session if necessary. It reassured me. The system had structure beyond his influence. That night, I unfolded the unsigned statement again. The language was polished and careful. My computational oversight. My responsibility. The wording erased him completely. I imagined signing it. My name attached to misconduct. My career beginning with a stain. The thought settled heavily. I folded the paper and placed it back in my bag. I would bring it with me, but I would not sign it. For the first time, I understood that silence can protect the wrong person. Late Wednesday evening, I stayed longer than usual. As I packed my bag, I heard his voice from inside his office. "She's young," he said softly into the phone. "It will be framed as inexperience." My grip tightened around my folder. There was no anger in his tone, just calculation. In that moment, any final doubt disappeared. This was not mentorship. It was damage control. I returned to my desk and opened my timeline once more. February 28, March 3, March 6, March 12. The sequence formed a straight line. Intent, action, preparation, blame. I saved one final backup to an encrypted cloud account. Then I shut down my computer. If tomorrow went badly, I wanted every piece of proof secured. When I stepped outside, the night air felt colder than usual. But I didn't feel fragile. I felt certain. Thursday morning arrived clear and bright. I dressed carefully, neutral colors, professional, calm. The conference room felt colder than the hallway. 5 board members sat along the long table. The department chair nodded at me briefly. Dr. Hale stood at the front, composed as ever. He began with a summary of the study, methodology, impact, long-term goals. Then he shifted. An internal review identified a statistical inconsistency, he said. The responsibility rests with a junior analyst managing multiple models. My name followed. He did not look at me. He spoke as if the conclusion was already accepted. When he finished, the chair turned to me. "Would you like to respond?" I stood slowly. "Yes," I said. My voice was steady. I connected my laptop to the screen. Then I opened the first file. The dataset timeline appeared clearly on the screen. "I finalized this version on March 3, I began. The data aligned at that time. I clicked forward. On March 6, edits were made under Dr. Hale's account. I highlighted the timestamp. Silence settled across the room. These adjustments changed the outcome percentage by 3 points, I continued. I opened the next slide. This internal email, dated February 28, states, "If concerns surface, we will position it as junior miscalculation." The words stood in plain text, no commentary needed. A board member leaned forward. "Dr. Hale, can you explain this?" For the first time, he hesitated. "These were routine refinements," he said carefully. "Supervisors assist junior staff. Did you inform her of the edits?" Another member asked. He paused. "That level of detail is not always necessary." The department chair cleared his throat. "We will suspend this meeting pending formal review." The word formal changed the air. As papers shuffled and chairs moved, I stepped back from the screen. I had not raised my voice. I had not accused. I had shown the trail, and the trail spoke for itself. The room emptied slowly after the meeting was paused. Dr. Hale avoided my eyes as he gathered his notes. For years, he had controlled every conversation. Now he moved carefully, like someone stepping across thin ice. Outside the conference room, I exhaled for the first time in what felt like hours. It wasn't victory, it was exposure, and exposure changes power. By Friday morning, the university's Research Integrity Office had opened a formal investigation. IT specialists secured the lab's servers. Archived emails were copied. Access permissions were frozen. Dr. Hale was placed on temporary administrative leave while the review proceeded. The lab buzzed with quiet speculation. Students avoided direct questions, but their glances lingered. I met with the ethics officer that afternoon and provided my full documentation under my own name. "You handled this carefully," she said. "That matters." I didn't feel brave. I felt precise. For the first time since this began, I wasn't reacting. I was watching the system work. The investigation moved quickly. IT logs confirmed what I had presented. The key edits were made under his credentials from his office computer. There was no sign of shared access. No accidental login. The timestamps aligned exactly with my timeline. I was asked to submit a formal written account of events. I handed over the document I had prepared days earlier. Dates, edits, conversations, clear, structured. Without exaggeration. 3 days later, I received official notice that I was cleared of responsibility in the current matter. The document stated that the inconsistencies were introduced after my final submission. My record would remain clean. I read that sentence twice. Clean. The word felt stronger than relief. Meanwhile, the investigation expanded to review prior publications. Patterns began to surface. And patterns are harder to dismiss than single incidents. Within a week, the Integrity Office contacted the former doctoral student I had researched. She confirmed similar experiences. Late-stage edits, statements drafted for her signature, corrections publicly attributed to analytical oversight, not supervisory revision. It wasn't an accident, it was a method. IT reports identified additional data adjustments in 2 earlier studies. Small percentage shifts, always subtle, always beneficial to the outcome. The funding committee placed our pending grant under temporary review. The National Journal paused publication. Faculty meetings grew tense. Dr. Hale issued a brief internal message stating he welcomed the investigation and remained confident in his integrity. But he no longer walked through the halls. His office door stayed dark. For the first time, his reputation wasn't protecting him. Documentation was defining him. 2 weeks after the board meeting, the official findings were released internally. The report concluded that Dr. Hale had engaged in improper data modification and failed to disclose supervisory edits. It recommended disciplinary action. By the end of the month, he stepped down from his leadership role. The public announcement used careful wording. Resignation for personal reasons pending further review. But inside the department, everyone understood. His name was removed from the lab entrance. Grant oversight was reassigned. Access privileges were revoked. I walked past his office one evening. The door was closed. the nameplate gone. For years, that room had represented authority. Now, it represented consequence. I didn't feel triumph. I felt clarity. He had believed reputation was everything. But reputation built on silence cannot survive records. And I had kept copies of everything. The lab atmosphere shifted almost immediately. An interim director stepped in and met with each team member individually. When I sat across from her, she thanked me for my professionalism during the review. "You handled this with integrity," she said. "That protects more than just you." I nodded quietly. Over the next week, I helped organize project files for transparency review. I shared documentation when requested, nothing more. Facts had done enough. A certified letter arrived, confirming that no disciplinary action would be taken against me. It also stated that retaliation against a reporting party was prohibited. The protection felt formal now, structured, not dependent on anyone's favor. That evening, I found the unsigned statement still folded in my bag. The paper that almost carried my downfall. I looked at my name, printed beneath the word responsibility. Then I tore it in half, not in anger, in release. A month after Dr. Hale stepped down, the university released a broader statement. It confirmed findings of supervisory misconduct and outlined new transparency policies. Co-signature requirements were added. Version tracking reviews became mandatory. The system adjusted, not loudly, but clearly. I received an official letter confirming my record was fully cleared. It stated that my actions had upheld research integrity standards. I placed it beside the earlier letter protecting me from retaliation. 2 pieces of paper. One almost ended my career. The other secured it. The former doctoral student I had researched sent me a short email. "Thank you," she wrote. Nothing more. But that word carried weight. For years, she had believed the mistake was hers. Now she knew it wasn't. And that mattered more than public announcements ever could. I was offered a transfer to another research team with independent oversight. The new supervisor reviewed my work history carefully. "You documented everything," she said. "That tells me who you are." Her tone held no judgment, only respect. The new lab environment felt different from the start. Edits were logged openly. Discussions were shared. Decisions were transparent. No closed doors. No hidden revisions. One afternoon, a junior analyst asked how to handle pressure from deadlines. "Document your work," I said gently, "and trust your data." She smiled, unaware of the history behind that advice. I kept my encrypted drives stored safely at home. Not because I expected future betrayal, but because records are protection. I no longer feared powerful names. I understood something clearly now. Authority without accountability does not last. Dr. Hale's resignation became public 2 months later. A brief article appeared in a research bulletin. It referenced internal findings, without detail. His reputation did not collapse overnight, but it fractured. Speaking, invitations slowed. Partnerships paused. Grant leadership shifted. I heard through colleagues that he accepted a consulting position elsewhere. Lower visibility, less control. I did not reach out. There was nothing left to say. One afternoon, while cleaning old folders, I found an email draft addressed to him. I had written it the night I discovered the internal message about junior miscalculation. It asked why he had prepared to blame me before any review. I never sent it. Instead, I deleted it. Some questions do not need answers once the evidence speaks. And once truth enters a room, it changes it permanently. The campus moved on quickly. New projects began. New grants were announced. Students rotated through labs without knowing what had happened the year before. I walked past the building one afternoon and noticed a new name beside the lab door. New leadership, new oversight, new safeguards. Not perfect, but improved. The system had not fallen apart. It had corrected itself. I realized something important then. I had not destroyed a career. I had revealed behavior. The consequences followed naturally. That difference mattered. I had once believed mentorship meant loyalty at any cost. Now I understood it should mean guidance with honesty. Anything else is control. And control without truth always leaves a trail. A year after the board meeting, I stood outside the same building where this began. The trees were turning gold. Students hurried past without noticing me. I thought back to the moment he slid the statement across his desk. The calm voice. The word accountability. He believed I would sign. He believed I would protect his image. He believed I would accept the narrative he prepared. He misjudged one thing. I kept copies of everything. Not because I expected betrayal, because accuracy matters. Truth leaves records. And when someone plans to sacrifice you to save a reputation, those records can become your way out. I turned away from the building without looking back. This time, my name remained exactly where it belonged. Untouched. Clean. Mine.